Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Yes, episode 122 on Inside the Game. Hello, everybody, and welcome in. Nate Wangler with you today for this episode, Wednesday, episode 122 on Inside the Game. Appreciate all you guys stopping by. As always, here on Inside the Game, we already got a comment, and look at that, Peter Mazuik. Who would have guessed? Hello, Peter, and welcome into the show. Our most loyal listener of all the listeners. There it is. Runs the film, runs the camera for Chicago Nation. I know you were on that game recently for the UPSL playoffs, so appreciate you helping out with that, getting all the good angles. We love having you around. Our Chicago-based guy, JT, not on the show here today, enjoying a little vacation time. My man has not seen the sun in probably about 5 months, and he admitted that on the show. I'm telling you, he's a lot like, and if you've ever seen it, good for you. And if you haven't, you should. He reminds me of like the zombies from Sinners. You know, at the end scene when they're talking about, you know, little Sammy was talking about how that was the greatest night of my life until the sun went down. Everything about that night, everything about it was great. Everything about it was perfect. And then the sun went down and it all just went sideways. Right. And that's kind of where JT's at. JT's the zombie on the other side of that equation. He's Michael B. Jordan's character. Like, yeah, you know, me too. Yeah, but before the soccer season began, I saw the sun. I saw the people outside of the studio. I saw life. I got to go places. Not anymore. And you get into the grind of soccer season, and specifically over here when you add soccer and football and everything else that goes on in the summer, yeah, you're probably not going to see the sun for a little bit. And that's where he was. And we talk about sports and the importance of being able to step away and do different things. You gotta be willing to put yourself in a position to go out and just maybe see some different things from time to time. You get lost in the sauce, specifically when you get into this time of year. We talked about USL 2 playoffs. They roll into the Elite 8. Flint City Bucks be on the road taking on Minnesota. A lot of other great matchups, and that one, USLW, just wrapping up their season. Congratulations to Utah United. We talked about that at length during our last episode. Winning that first title there. Mind you, the league's only been around since 2022, but man, they have a future there. Taylor Rath is a beast in goal. 3 straight clean sheets to win that national championship. Obviously, Seven Castaigne, I think we all have an understanding, is going to be playing in the NWSL at some point. Now, where she will play, I don't know. Where she's the best fit, I'm not sure. Who wants her? Who knows? Right, but there's a lot to love about not only what she's done in the USLW, but you look at what she's accomplished on the collegiate side as well, playing at TCU. Go Frogs. There's a lot to love about that skill set. All right, and the way that they built that roster, 80-90% college players, won a lot of games, and they kept that roster together. So congratulations to them, but not only that. You talk about the madness of everything going on in the soccer world and why JT is deserving of that vacation. Also got the UPSL playoffs. Our man Peter Mazuik working with Chicago Nation as they march on in that playoff round. So 2 straight wins for them as they look to get their first championship. All this to be said. JT stepping away with the family here today, going to Saugatuck, Michigan, enjoying the beach. So to any of you guys who also have the day off here today, if you work in sports, you understand that sometimes off days are not Saturdays and Sundays. Rarely are they. Sometimes it's in the middle of the week. Sometimes it's a Monday. Sometimes it's a Tuesday evening. You don't know when you're going to get that off day. You don't know when you're going to get that break or that breather. But when you get it, you got to take advantage. So they're over on the west side today, actually not far from where I am. And I gotta say this before we transition into anything important. And we got a stacked show here today. Ryan Glinsky will be joining us later on. Broadcaster at Central Michigan University, actually recently just graduated. He's been in the sport for a long, long time. And you guys know I love highlighting people in the game. Right? When we started the show, when we started this podcast, when we started this company, our goal was we wanted to get everybody under one umbrella. right? And the best way to do that is you got to get the people who are in those seats, who have played the game, who have been there, who have been in the locker rooms. And not only that, he's working for Woodward Sports over in Detroit, obviously a big sports outlet out that direction. Neil Rule, good friend of the show, is doing great work with them. So we'll talk about that as well. But there's a lot to cover on that platform, so we got a really good show coming up for you. But I'm gonna pull out the old JT line here. I'm gonna give you the playbook, okay? And this is for the people who are, if you're coming from the east side, if you're coming from Chicago area, doesn't matter where you're coming from. I realize that the state of Michigan is the place to go during the summer. All right, a lot of people want to talk about out west, down south. This is the state that people flock to a lot of times. All right, and I've noticed it more and more as I've gotten older. When I was younger, maybe not so much. Yeah, very, very fortunate family has a cabin up north, so in a lot of ways, we could kind of get away from everything. I didn't really see it. But when I worked in Traverse City in 2020 doing Northwoods League baseball, the one thing that I noticed is that you have such a discrepancy in the types of people that will come to Michigan during the summer. You got people who have boatloads of money, and they want to buy up the properties. They want to get all the nice stuff. And then obviously you have the natives. And sometimes there can be a little bit of a, butting of heads there. When you're coming to the west side of the state, you got Grand Haven. Okay, I get it. And I was just there recently. It's a beautiful spot, but when you factor in Coast Guard, 4th of July, it gets busy out there that direction. I mean, I'm talking packed. And most times, this is not a city that can handle that many people, but they make it look really good. This is not to take away from Grand Haven. Pronto Pups, the best. All right? But if you're coming to the west side of the state, whether you're coming from Detroit area, whether you're coming from Chicago, I got a few other options for you, and I just want you to know that you have options. You have Muskegon, gorgeous. Okay, you got the Deck, a little restaurant right on the beach, a lot of beachfront. Okay, gorgeous. You got a few other lakes out there. All right, you also got South Haven, but most importantly, you got Saugatuck. And in my personal opinion over here on the west side, I think if there's a beach that is the best one that you should 100% have on your bucket list, it is Saugatuck. Random Aussie, yo, Nathan, Jonathan, the GOATs. Well, Jonathan is it's not here today, but what's up, Random Aussie? Welcome back in, man. I think he's from Australia. I'm pretty sure. Although, you never know. He just pops up randomly on our broadcast from time to time, but welcome back in. So Peter and Random Aussie joining us today. I'm just letting you know you got options, all right? You got Muskegon, you got Grand Haven, you got Saugatuck. You don't have to go to the same place every single time. And Saugatuck is gorgeous. So my man JT is going to try to get maybe get a tan in today, hopefully not catch some sort of rare disease if he sits down on a rock, because we've seen that before. So none of that. So getting a much-needed, deserved day off. So we will be back for our final episode of the week tomorrow. But I wanted to start 122 here today because I know we got Ryan coming up here shortly, and there's a lot of good stuff to talk about on that front. Peter says, random welcome to the other side of the DMV. Yes, absolutely. But a big welcome into everybody joining us here today. But I was walking through the store yesterday, and one of the phenomena that you run into, especially when you start getting to driving age, is when you buy a vehicle. And we've all been through this before, right? You buy a vehicle, doesn't matter really make, model, color, none of that really matters. None of that has any weight nearing your bedtime. All right, well, don't let me keep you up, Random Aussie, all right? I appreciate you stopping by, though. That's dedication. But it doesn't matter what the make, the model, the car, anything like that. You get a vehicle. When you start driving that vehicle around, the one thing you will automatically notice is that you see more of that type of vehicle on the road than any other car. Okay, I got myself a Honda Accord. I see Accords all over the place. Now, I can't stop seeing them. Now, is it because there's more on the road? No. I mean, you notice it because you drive it. You notice it because you're in it every single day. It was the same thing when I had a Volkswagen. It was the same thing when I had the beautiful Chevy Impala. Beautiful. Didn't really last much. Didn't really last for shit, excuse my French, but it was a great car. Same thing with every car that I've had. You start to see more of them because you're in one of them. You see it more. And as I've gotten acclimated to the sport of soccer, football, whatever it is that you want to call it over the course of the last 2 years, right? In a sport that I wasn't born with, I wasn't raised on, I didn't consume very much. It was something that, culturally speaking, at least in the environment that I was in, was not really a focus. All right. I had friends who played the game. You know, we would play FIFA sometimes, but our understanding of what the beautiful game was very limited as Americans. It was very, very limited because it wasn't something that was a main focus in the grand scheme of things. American football was our focus. But the more that I've gotten involved in this sport, the more that I've seen certain things just out and about in public that I didn't really see before. And one of those things, more kids wearing jerseys now than ever before. I think yesterday I saw a Neymar jersey, a Messi jersey, and then at the very end, my very favorite, a Christian Pulisic jersey in one shopping trip. One. All young kids, all young boys. My guess is probably playing the sport of soccer. But you see more of it in and around your environment because now you're in it. And I'm in it. And I'll be the first to admit, I don't know everything there is to know about this game. And I don't want to claim ignorance. I just want to put it out in the atmosphere that I am not as familiar with this sport as a lot of other people, but I am open and I am willing. And it's one of the reasons why, and you can hate the guy for what he stands for from a political perspective, from all these other things, but Alexi Lalas said on ESPN, and he was on Cowherd's show, and Nick Wright said, I'm going to try and interview you, and I'm not saying this word for word, but he's trying to ask him questions, but he's also coming from the perspective of, I don't really follow this sport. It is not something we talk about every day. We talk about Patrick Mahomes for probably 27 hours a week, and then we move on to the next week, right? It's no different than talking about LeBron James if you're Stephen A. Smith or you're Skip Bayless or any of these other guys. We know what pushes the needle for American media companies, and that's talking about what gets clicks. And those guys get clicks. Major League Soccer does not get clicks. The men's international team, unfortunately, a lot of times does not get clicks. It does if you see Americans pissed off, because I think everybody overseas really loves the fact that we're a B-side in a lot of ways on the international team. But Alexi Lalas said, my job is to open a book for those and teach those who want to know more about the beautiful game. And we have to have that perspective. And that's the mentality that I've really embraced over the last couple of years. Because in the more that I've learned about it, again, and I said this on a previous episode, it's a mix of two things: arrogance and ignorance. That's why it's not culturally relevant. Arrogance because, okay, well, you run around in shorts and you kick a ball, well, we got American football. That's more exciting. I'd rather see people get destroyed. Well, soccer is a very physical sport. Again, you just don't watch it. Again, this is your arrogance speaking. That's why you don't consume it. And ignorance because we don't understand the game. So why would it be exciting? Why would you want to watch it if you don't understand exactly what it is that you're watching? And of all the reasons, and we posed this question last week, okay, why can we not on the women's side, but on the men's side, why can we not compete at the international level? And you're going to get a slew of different answers. Infrastructure. We don't have a lot of soccer-specific facilities in the United States of America. Now, the number of them are growing. We have the soccer stadium coming here in Grand Rapids. Fort Wayne FC is making the leap to USL League One next year. They're going to have a soccer-specific facility that can seat upwards of 9,000. You look at Vermont, where they're playing in the USL too. It's a soccer-specific facility. Oh, and by the way, they had over 5,500 at their last 2 games. I don't normally see crowds of that size during the summer unless you're talking about a minor league baseball game, and typically at a good stadium. But that's what they have. Because you could say, okay, soccer-specific facilities. We're playing on football fields out here. Maybe, okay, fine. Flint City playing at Kettering University. I get it. You could say coaching. I also understand that aspect too, because as we grow as a country, keep in mind, Major League Soccer is only 30 years old. Like, I just missed the cutoff or the deadline to the start of that league. I'm 28. If I was born a few years earlier, I literally would have been born at the same exact time that highest level of soccer was a thing in the United States. It has not been around that long. And to that point, the cultural relevance, which I know we talk about as growing, was also not there. So how would you expect the coaching or the wisdom around the game to be where it needs to be? A lot of coaches that are ruining experiences for players left and right. Some of it due to arrogance, some of it due to ignorance, some of it due to they just don't understand the game and they don't know how to identify talent. That's a real thing. Alexi Lalas said refereeing. I would agree with that too. Again, if you don't have people that know how to control the game, how do you expect the country to get better at playing the game? But the one thing that we always come back to is pay for play. That is what has stopped the United States, specifically on the men's side. You have over 14 million young men playing this game in this country. 14 million. I didn't think of that. And yet, we can't compete with the big dogs. All right, I was the one to say I was happy, especially in the Gold Cup, that we were able to get to the end of the line. Okay, that there was a young group, that they were showing scrappiness, that they were doing all these other things. But to celebrate just getting to a final, but being 0 for 5 against top 30 teams. Beating a Guatemala, beating a Haiti, beating a Trinidad and Tobago. There is nothing in there that is really worth celebrating as a country that in every other sport takes pride and joy in competing with some of the best in the world. And JT has said this before. Is it because we don't have the talent to do so? No. Is it because we have a system that doesn't support developing and generating the level of talent that we need in order to compete with the big dogs? Yes, absolutely. And it's pay for play. I mean, what, $2,000 to get involved in the higher leagues? By the way, you're not even factoring in meals and gas and travel expenses and all of these other things that you as the parent have to put forward. I mean, forget never having a free weekend. I know we talk about mental health all the time. I know that's a new subject in the sports world in a lot of ways, but it makes a difference. Philip K. Wrigley, which, I was a Cubbies fan growing up. My dad was. He used to talk about this with baseball. It's too much of a sport to be a business. It's too much of a business to be a sport at the same exact time. I think we've taken that literally in the soccer space with where we are right now. But it doesn't mean that we can't get there. My only question is, are we too far down the road? And so there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. And the best way to really get inside the mind of the people who are in that space and want to continue being in that space, and we talked about that side of it as well, staying involved in the game is the only way to continue to grow it. And the more that we grow it, they're going to have to make it more accessible for young kids. Because at some point, something is going to give. And the more we talk about it, the more that we get people involved, the more we put it out in the open, people are going to learn about this sport. They're going to embrace the sport. I've taken it personally that I've converted a couple of different people in my life into soccer fans. Now, not major soccer fans, but soccer fans to the point of oh, this is actually pretty fun to watch. Yes, I would go to a Premier League game. Yes, I would go to a World Cup game. Absolutely, I would be a part of that. Good, good. That's all I want. Because if we start there, then we get more people involved. And I realize the easy solution is to be like, let's tear it all down and build it back up again. I don't know if that's a realistic choice. But someone who has been deeply entrenched in the soccer space their entire life, went to Central Michigan University, fire up chips, by the way. I only lasted a semester there, so we can talk about that a little bit. Yes, one whole semester. I actually see him. He's been laughing at me a little bit at the bottom of our screen before he comes on here today. But broadcasted for CMU Soccer. Now he's working over at Woodward Sports, as I mentioned. Obviously, Detroit sports is in a good spot right now. Tigers have been slumping a little bit as of late, but there's a lot of good stuff to talk about there. But he has been very deeply involved, and I got to give him credit here, right? Young broadcasters, young people in the sports world, if you want to get somewhere, be the squeaky wheel. And he's been squeaking a lot, and he's been squeaking to try and get on the show and get involved with us. And I'm hoping that he'll be able to stop by a few more times. But it's the man himself, Ryan Glinsky, joining us on Inside the Game. What's up, buddy?
What's up, Nathan? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. So, first off, I got to start here because I know you guys we were chatting about it a little bit yesterday. You're down in Cleveland right now. You're at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Talk to me a little bit about what led to that.
Um, I would just say family's big into music. It's something that we've always wanted to do. We've been to the Motown Museum over in Detroit. We haven't been there since it was renovated. So we went there before COVID, and I knew they were starting their renovations, and they didn't quite get there yet. But we're big music people, and my dad had a week off here, and my mom's a teacher, so she's got the summer off, and my sister and I were like, yeah, let's tag along. Able to check it out. I've also been to the Football Hall of Fame for a soccer tournament, so that was cool way back in the
Okay.
day. But yeah, this is Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was sweet. There's of course still some Michigan love with all the different artists and groups. So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. Cleveland, great city. And even got to see the Guardians, Browns, and Cavaliers arenas as well. So.
I gotta admit too, I like Cleveland. I'm not a big Ohio guy because I am from
No.
Michigan. I just don't really care for it. But what I will say is that the Midwest feel is something you can't get away from. Whether you're in Chicago, whether you're in Detroit, whether you're in Cleveland, there's a lot to love about all those places because they love their sports teams. They are absolutely entrenched with their sports teams. But I want to stick on the Rock topic for a little bit. And the first thing I want to ask you: so, who's your favorite band then? You said you're a big music guy. Who's your favorite band? Put me on
The
the spot here.
Temptations. The
Temptations.
Temptations.
All
Motown. I'm a
right.
big Motown guy. I love Motown. I like how the songs get you. I believe Barry Gordy said as long as the song hits you in the first two bars or something like that.
Oh yeah, you got to have
Um,
a hook.
and and every Temptation song is like that. So that's my favorite group.
So something told me that you grew up listening to the radio with Dad wherever you went, right? I mean, he's got you hooked on
Yes.
the oldies. It sounds like.
Yeah. I'm at the. My uncle was telling me he was like, we grew up listening to Motown, so we made you guys grow up listening to Motown too. So I'll take it. It's a great genre of music. Great genre.
So something tells me you got to pass that on to the next generation. Then
Yes.
is this
Yeah,
a cyclical
absolutely.
thing? This keeps going. Okay.
Mhm.
Of course, one of the bizarre things we mentioned before the show, Ozzy Osbourne, ironically enough, passed away. Sad day for the rock and roll world. Obviously, he was a legend during his time, and uh, one of the things that it will always drive me insane. But to Ozzy's credit, his songs will always be played at every sporting event ever. There will never not be an Ozzy Osbourne song, "Crazy Train,"
Yeah.
whatever, playing somewhere. That how bizarre was that to see that, especially with the timing of you guys going down there?
It was kinda just weird, like, you're at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and, Ozzy Osbourne is, all over the place with,
Yeah.
his music, and even, there's even a section in the Hall of Fame where you can, like, pick up guitar and, like, you can play with random people and play, like, a song or something, and one of them was Crazy Train, and then we left the Hall of Fame, and within 20 minutes I see on Twitter, Ozzy Osbourne's dead, and it's like
Mm.
that's just we never went back inside to, see what the vibe was like, but I'm sure it was strictly Ozzy Osbourne music and, people talking about it all around, so but no, it just weird timing, weird timing.
Definitely lined up at an odd time. All right, so let's dive into the soccer stuff because I know that you and I have looked at some of your play-by-play stuff, and we've talked about your experience there. I imagine in Victoria Quay is another one of our correspondents here on the National Soccer Network. She played out in the California area, Los Angeles, growing up. We all have this dream initially, and I think I can speak for all media people, even broadcasters. You ask any of them, man. I like talking into the microphone. Okay, I enjoy it. But more than anything else, and this is when players get upset with us because, hey, you said this thing about me or this or that or the other thing. I'm like, hey, guys, like, I'm doing my job, but realize at the end of the day that I would love to be doing what you're doing, not what I'm doing. Okay, that was all of our goal at one point or another. Was that the goal for you? When did you start playing soccer, and did you have dreams of, eventually being in the Premier League or being somewhere overseas? What was the journey for you?
So my mom threw me in a rec league called Little Kickers for, like, 3 and 4-year-olds, and then
I played
eventually
little kickers
yeah, it's
once upon a
it
time.
yeah, it was just a couple things throughout the spring or summer, I don't quite remember, but just, that for a couple years and then went in going into AYSO, and then my AYSO team was pretty decent, and one of the AYSO team's coaches, I believe, talked to my dad and was like, let's do some travel soccer." Because he had an oldest son that was doing travel soccer, and he had a son that's my age that I still talk to this day, and, we kinda just rallied a group of kids from AYSO, and we kinda just tore it up. Like, we'd go into the U9, like, we were 8 years old or 6 or I don't even remember, 8, 7 or 8 years old, and we'd go up like a year above, and we would just win all these tournaments, and then eventually, my team grew the club, played out for they no longer exist, but the Bay Area Hurricanes, over,
Hmm.
Macomb, New Baltimore, and then we went to the Michigan Wolves East out in Romeo, which has now changed their name to Jags Romeo, I believe now. So we went to Wolves East, just playing a whole bunch of different tournaments, and then played at Anchor Bay High School. And my junior and senior year, we were really good. My senior year, we made it to the regional finals and lost. And then after that, I played a little club soccer up at Central Michigan, and then this past year, I just simply asked, to answer your other question, yes, I would have loved to be an Arsenal player, would have loved to be playing with Mikel Arteta. And Robin Van Persie was my guy. He was my first player that I really, outside of Messi, the 2010 World Cup, Messi was my guy. And then I started watching Arsenal, and then Van Persie, so would have loved to play with him. But then asked my Central Michigan boss, and he was the director of multimedia over there, and I go, "Is there anyone?" I was like, I just sent him an email. I go, "Hey, I would love to do soccer play by play. I played the sport for since I was 3 or 4, and I still watch soccer on the daily." And I was like, "If you got someone picked, all good, but would love to." And he emails me back and goes, "Thank you. I needed someone to do women's soccer play by play. No one wants to do it." And I was like, "Awesome." So I did 5 or 6 games, whatever it was. But yeah, that's kind of my soccer journey.
I want to touch on what you talked about with wanting to go play, for Arsenal and those guys. I do think it's interesting from the commentary side. I feel like we're playing from behind the 8 ball though very quickly because, man, every time I think of soccer, I think of, like, Stuart Robson on, like, FC
Yes.
25, and those are the guys that I
Mhm.
think of. So I feel like I need to, like, develop an accent or something to really get my way in this industry. But I wanted to talk on that side of it really quickly because one of the benefits of you having played and is getting inside your mind as a soccer player coming up. Because again, this is something that wasn't familiar with me. I had dreams of playing college football, American football. I had dreams of playing in the NFL or playing in Major League Baseball. That's where I kind of started. Now, eventually I realized, all right, hey, you're 5'8.5" on a good day. You're a little bit on the heavier side, this, that, or the other thing, the coordination's okay, not great, but you're probably not going to get there. Right. So that's when my transition into the broadcasting world kind of happened. And then obviously JT noticed me, brought me into the soccer side. But for you growing up, we put out this question on our show, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. How many young male soccer players in the United States dream of playing overseas? Of if you were to take 10 of them, how many of them, because think about this. In 2023, it was the third most consumed sport in the United States. The third. Right? We sometimes we put soccer way down on the list in terms of cultural relevance, but sometimes I don't think we realize, maybe here, but in terms of watching what's going on over there, and Messi and Ronaldo and all of these international superstars, they draw an American audience. What is it about in the soccer world when you're coming up? Is it the level of play? Is it the soccer culture? Why is it that young American players have dreams of going to these soccer hotbeds and playing, going across the pond and playing, as opposed to maybe being here and playing in Major League Soccer? What is it that draws you to those types of environments, or you think would draw a young player to those environments?
I think what draws them is, I think, the atmosphere. I think the soccer atmosphere over there is, I mean, you hear them chanting for 90 minutes plus.
Yeah.
And you also got to think that when you see the World Cup final numbers in terms of views, you're getting over 1 billion people tuning in. You watch the Super Bowl, that's what, a couple 100 million,
Mm-hmm.
maybe?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's that. I also think that the soccer physique of a player is a little bit more attainable than, let's say, a Calvin Johnson of the world,
Yeah.
a quarterback. Like, if you're, or even, you're looking at NBA, you got 7-footers that can dribble behind the back, step back threes, and all that fun stuff. But you look at soccer players, I mean, Messi's 5'5", 5'6", something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Courtois is one of the tallest ones at 6'2", 6'3", something like that. So I think the physique is a little bit more attainable, for soccer athletes compared to going to the NFL, the NBA. Even MLB's got some smaller guys, but you still have bigger guys.
Right.
And I also think that Christian Pulisic has really changed. I think if you asked me this question before COVID, it'd be a little bit like no one really wanted to go overseas. But since Pulisic, and I also think it goes back to soccer being the first sport back during COVID. I don't know if you
Mm.
remember that, like, European soccer was the first sport back
Yeah.
during the COVID pandemic, and no one had anything else to watch. Like, I remember watching that Dortmund game. I don't even remember who they played, but Dortmund was on the team, and I was so excited to see Gio Reyna start, and he didn't start. But I think that's kind of the reasoning is, it's a great atmosphere. So many more people watch it, and you get the physical attainability is a little bit easier to manage than being an NFL guy.
Well, and the other side of it is too, and I know I mentioned it a little bit leading up to our conversation, and I do want to get into the stuff that you're personally doing because I think it is important to put out there. But the other side of it is when we have the World Cup coming up in 2026. It's crazy to me to think the last time it was here in the United States, you and I were neither of us were born. It was
Um,
1994. That was even before, my old ass was born. That was a long time ago. So 94 was the last time they were here. They're bringing it back to the United States now, and that's the reason why we've seen, the Club World Cup. I don't know how much you've been on top of that. Obviously, we got a lot of other things leading up to this World Cup, but the stress for me and for many Americans comes in, can we put up a fight? Can we, at the very least, and I hate that a lot of people see this as our ceiling, but can we get out of group? Can we at least make some sort of decent run into this? I don't think, from my perspective, that the reason why we've had success or a lack of success consistently on the highest level, and we can dive into what Pochettino brings or doesn't bring or the specific players, but some people say that, we just don't necessarily have the talent to do it. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And I'm sure you've been around players. I'm sure you've seen players that you're like, no doubt that kid has a chance to do something special. But the system that we have in place that to really bring those kids to the forefront and identify them and really develop them well, it really isn't there in a lot of ways. You having been in that position, having played the sport your whole life, and then obviously the club stuff going into college, what's the disconnect there? Is it pay for play? Why can we not get the most out of our international side?
I think I think college soccer in a way kind of hurts it.
Mm,
One of my friends at school at Central, big soccer guy.
oh,
Didn't play travel throughout, played high school, and never made college or anything. But he brought up a good point to me, and he says we as Americans, we play soccer, growing up, travel, high school. We want to play soccer to get to college. And there's no disrespect for people,
mm,
wanting to play college soccer or anything like that. They're great athletes and they're great soccer players. But he goes, the difference is we want to grow up to play college soccer. Over in Europe, these kids are growing up to go play pro. Like
mm.
now the academies are a thing, but I feel like college soccer. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Uh yeah, I'm just outside right now.
No,
And
you're
disturb someone. Um uh
good.
but yeah, no, we want to play college soccer. Or we want to go play college soccer because you look at football, basketball, baseball. Um But, they go play pro. I think that we should promote the academies a little bit more for all the different, MLS teams that we have because that's also a gateway to get you into international, like, Pulisic, Reyna, McKennie, all the Adams even, all those guys went through the MLS academies, and then some of them didn't even make it into the MLS Pro, but they got transferred over to the Schalkes, the Dortmunds, the RB Leipigs of the world, and, I think that we don't have the same mentality, I would say, and also going back to that Gold Cup final game, we also couldn't connect 3 passes to save our lives,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
so there's that as well. So I just think that our mentality is a little bit different. And also, I think something that's a little bit overlooked is we have so many different options of sports. Growing up
Yeah,
as kids,
yeah.
football, basketball, baseball, even hockey, soccer. Over in Europe, you have rugby and soccer, I would say. And then,
Maybe golf
basketball's kind of
mixed in there.
yeah, yeah, golf.
Yeah, yeah.
Golf's another one.
Mhm.
Basketball kind of getting over there in Europe now with the French national team, but we just have so much, and soccer just kind of gets kind of pushed back a little bit.
And even look at those other sports. I mean, depth, I think, is the one thing that really
Yeah.
defines why the U.S. is able to do what they do. I mean, even in baseball, yeah, you could say Japan and Venezuela and a lot of these places are catching up. But we have the depth. Basketball, same exact thing. Yeah, you have a slew of MVPs, even with SGA, but the depth here in the United States is what makes all the difference in the world. But when you talk about the soccer space, obviously that's different. One of the things that I think is interesting, and it was something that Alexi Lawless mentioned on our show, is when you talk about the United States, the hard thing is the diversity of not only people, but of thought and of strategy. You look across the world, you look at, the Argentinas, the Germanys, the Spains of the world, they have a very unique and distinct way of playing the game. I love your little nature walk right now. This is great. This
Thank
is
you.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm just on the
A
outskirts of the
podcast on the
hotel here.
move.
Yeah, it's a mobile podcast.
Got it. But there's really no, when you look at the US, we have so many different types of people, so many different ways of thinking about how to play the game. And we've kind of taken on, I think, like more of the Spain school of thought when it comes to possessing the ball and moving it more and really sitting on possession. Do you think that that has any effect on maybe our success at the same time? Like we have great individual pieces, but our ability to not only identify the best team, but in terms of strategy and how to go about playing the game plays into it as well. Because soccer, to you, what you say, it's the reason why it's the beautiful game. It's a sport that has to be played in perfect harmony by all 11. You can't have disjointed pieces. You can't have people out there doing their own thing. So, do you think that plays into it too? Like we just don't have a common identity because we have so many different schools of thought on how this game should be played the right way?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of identities that are different, and you kind of think, American sports, we're kind of stubborn, I think, in our way when it comes to soccer.
Yeah.
Basketball, it's our own way. Football, it's our own way. Baseball, hockey's a little different because you have Canada, Russia,
Right.
and all the different countries, and I think we're just trying to reinvent the wheel with a whole bunch of different pieces, and, you look at the starting 11, for all these different USA teams, and you have the Pulisic's, you have these people that are in Champions League, and then you have guys that are in the MLS, and they're used to a different way of soccer,
Mhm.
and I think that since we're not the main place to go. Like no one in England is like, all right, let's go to LA to play soccer or something. Like that's where we want to be
Right.
as our end goal, and
Mhm.
and that's just not true. And I just think that we just have too many cooks in the kitchen. If it's a good way to phrase it.
Right.
Just too many ideologies, and you got people coming over from Italy, and you have Pochettino who has Argentina and England ties, with his time at Tottenham, and I just think we don't have a true American soccer identity yet. I'm hoping with the World Cup here in America, that'll generate buzz for soccer, kind of the way it was in the last time the World Cup was here because MLS was then born right after that. But we just don't have a true identity yet the way we do with basketball, football, baseball, hockey, all those other ones.
So I want to great conversation about the whole soccer sphere overall. And again, hopefully we can have you more on and we can have more of those conversations specifically as we get closer to September because I do think that obviously it's do or die time. When you talk about the
Yeah.
USMNT, they're going to have to start really showing us what it is that we're to expect in 2026. But I want to go to where you're at because transitioning from being on the field to on the mic is can be a fun transition. It can be daunting. It can be challenging, but I think when you have the background in it, it makes it a little bit easier on you at the same exact time. Talk a little bit about that transition going from being on the playing side to now all of a sudden you're calling games at Central Michigan. What was it like going into the sports media side?
So I have always kind of broadcasted things since I was like 5 years old. And I didn't even know it. Like, I was a big NASCAR guy, and I
We'll turn
would
the TV down and do it in your living room. One of those
yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, I'd have each race car, and I would, like, circle it around me on the living room floor. So I
Huh.
was and I did it for, like, even, basketball, like, out in the driveway. "Oh, he shoots. Oh, you missed it. You had 3 more seconds. Random magically 3 seconds add on
Yeah.
every time." Or,
Every
like, in
time.
your room, and then I broadcasted video game. Like, when I would play FIFA, I swear to God, I used an English voice when I was doing soccer with FIFA. So I 100% did it, but I wouldn't say it was too much of a transition. It wasn't too hard, mainly because I did it as like a 5-year-old and didn't really know about it. I didn't realize that this was a career path till I got to 8th grade or something like that. 8th grade or a freshman in high school. I didn't know that was a career. I didn't think you could do that as a job. I just randomly did it. But there wasn't too much of a difference. I would say there was like being a former soccer player, you can kind of pick up on, the tactics that they're doing a little bit. You can kind of say because I was a midfielder, so I would always look at the midfield first. Like I'd always, see how they're shaped up. Like they're so and so's moving in and out of space, like things like that. But it wasn't too much of a difference. And it always keeps me around the game. I didn't think I would miss playing it. I thought I would miss playing it more than I actually do. I don't obviously I love the game. And I still play semi-pro with a couple of my travel buddies on like every other weekend. But I like being, in front of the mic calling games, and it's not too much of a difference. If anything, playing the sport helped me, like, pick out little things to talk about, and even watching soccer pretty much every week of my life, has helped me call games as well.
And obviously being from that area of the state, you grew up in all of it. You grew up in the Lions, the Tigers, the all the sports teams over there, the Wings. When you grow up in that environment, when you grow up in that culture, people that aren't from the state are not from that city. It's the thing that always blows my mind when Detroit gets such a bad rap sometimes from the national media, because I just don't think they realize. I mean, we saw that I forget who said it. Indiana Fever names escaping me right now, but said that
Cunningham.
yeah,
Tiffany
that
Cunningham? Yeah.
WNBA didn't want to move to Detroit. No one's
Yeah.
excited to go play in Detroit. And then I love how they clap back with the picture of, what was it, 22,000 in attendance the last time that the
Yeah.
WNBA was in Detroit. I mean, just amazing. And that's because these Midwest fan bases, they show up for their teams. And with that, there's going to be a lot of passion. There's going to be a lot of conversations. We see it all the time. I'm hoping the Tigers don't really start to slide, because then we might start seeing things kind of hit the fan here.
We can't
But
have that.
yeah, one of the more polarizing platforms, to their credit, because I think they really get the people talking, and I think they get the people interested, and that's all you really care for when you're in this space. We say sometimes it's all about clicks, it's all about attention, but if you're getting people talking, that's where you want to be. And when I think about that specific side of it, I think of Woodward Sports. It's one of the first places that I think of. And you've had the opportunity to intern there. What's your role there, and what's it been like being surrounded by a lot of big names in that direction? I mean, even Neil himself, he's doing Piston stuff now. He's a legend over at Oakland. But what's it been like being a part of that environment with the boys over at Woodward?
It was I wouldn't say it was intimidating. You guys have a four-time Stanley Cup champion, Darren McCarty, just walking around, and you
That
have
knucklehead.
Braylon. Yeah, and you have Braylon Edwards, who is an NFL guy, just casually walking around, and even Neil Rule. I was watching DCFC since 2021, so
Yeah.
hearing his voice. But it's been a fun time. I've been there just over 2 months, I think, as an intern. I did some stuff while I've been on the trip, clipping shows to clickbait people on the internet. Um,
Oh,
no,
so you're
it's
rage baiting people. That's your job then.
no,
Yeah, a
not
little
all the
bit.
time. Sometimes in the live chat, I've gotten people going. Like I have a college football TikTok, and I took a sticky note and I wrote in it on Monday, and I put 1310 go blue on an Ohio State shirt, and I just posted it.
Oh
And
yeah.
within 30 minutes, the comment section was just
Oh,
after each
wildfire.
other,
I'm sure. Yeah.
and I'm just watching it happen, like, Michigan, Ohio State fans just go at it, and so you definitely get introduced to the social media aspect, but there's just so many professional people out there that, I'm learning from. Neil, is one of them. Even it's a guy like guys like Sean Baligian and Tom
Yeah.
Mazaway. Flannel Sam, as he's always mentioned on social media, and Kool-Aid, Detroit Kool-Aid, those guys have helped me a ton, and even my bosses that are in the social media aspect, Justin Satawa and Travis Maddox. Hopefully I said Travis's last name right. Those guys have helped me a ton, and just finding, ways to clip things and post on social media. But everyone out there, it's such a team environment that yeah, sometimes we'll clickbait and rage bait people. Like, I know during the Lions, when Lions played the Commanders, but we ultimately lost. But Neil rage baited the Commanders fans so hard leading up to it that they just went in on the live stream just to, talk junk to Neil, and
I
it
remember that.
generated so much buzz
I
just because,
remember that.
you're just rage baiting people. So you get an aspect to social media, but I know social media is kind of taking over the broadcasting sphere. But
Yeah.
you still get so many years of experience of journalists and broadcasters being. Oh yeah, Matt Shepard just got added onto that as well. I haven't got
No.
a ton of. He got added last week, so I haven't got a ton of time to talk to him yet. But there's just so much great resources that I've been using to just grow myself as a journalist or a broadcaster.
And social media is such a necessary evil, man. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like you realize you got to do it. Like, that's the world we live in right now. And I've kind of taken it upon myself. Now it's mostly in the TikTok sphere. I do Instagram. I do these other things, but that's kind of been where my focus has been. And for better or for worse, sometimes you put things out there that maybe you don't necessarily believe in, but you realize it'll generate conversation. All of that to be said, it's a vehicle for me because my goal ultimately is to be a play-by-play broadcaster. I want to do games on a national level. That's where I've been striving for the longest time. For you, in the sports world, I know you obviously have a reputation with the social media stuff and they're coaching you up a little bit at these different places. What's the ultimate dream for you in this world?
I think ultimate dream. I would. It's because I love the talk shows. I love like the podcasts like these. I would ultimately say my ultimate dream would be to be a play-by-play person of any. I'd prefer it to be soccer just because I've been a
Right.
part of it, but a voice of basketball, baseball, because I've called those. Never called football. That was the one sport I didn't get to call up at Central Michigan. Um, but a voice, but also have like a show at the same time. So kind of two dreams, I guess, if that makes sense. I know it'd be super hard to attain, but I look at people like you guys. You guys have a podcast, and you guys are voices of sports, and then I look at people like Neil Rule and Matt Shepard. That Neil has been doing his show for quite some time. Matt Shepard just got brought on, and he's been doing play by play. Even Sean Blegian does play by play for I believe MHSAA.
Yeah.
I think, and then this other guy in the network, Stick, he does play by play for the Prep or color commentary for the Prep, and then he has a show he fills in. So I feel like it could definitely be attained. It's just going to be a ton of work and a ton of reps and a lot of networking and long hours. But that would ultimately be my goal, is to have some sort of show and play by play in some aspect.
A lot of all that, but it's worth it once you do it. And obviously I think you're putting yourself in the right spots. Ryan, appreciate you stopping by the show today, man, getting to chat, talk shop about soccer a little bit. And like I said, getting your perspective on things. Fire up, Chips, by the way.
Fire up.
Like I said, I lasted there one semester, but that was that's all I had in me. Transferred out NAI school here in Cornerstone in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but obviously things ended up working out well. But there's a lot to like there, and hopefully we can get you on for a few more.
Yeah, it was a awesome time. Hopefully, I don't have to walk around nature to do this next time. Hopefully, I can be like in a seated, air conditioned spot. But I'm in the shade, so it's not too hot.
Hey,
But yeah,
man.
no, it was an awesome time. We'll still claim you as a Chippewa.
All
Even though
right,
you're there for a
that works.
At least you didn't transfer to Western or East or anything like that. So we'll still claim you as a Chippewa. You can still say fire up whenever you feel.
All right. Okay. I got the pass now. Thank you. All right. That's all I needed. Appreciate you stopping by, Ryan. We'll talk to you here in the future.
See you guys soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, my man. That's Ryan Glinsky here on Inside the Game. Appreciate him stopping by as always. Again, coming back up tomorrow, JT will be rejoining us here on Inside the Game. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, guys. We put that out on our social media and about kids wanting to go play overseas. What is our current issues here in the soccer sphere? And what's amazing to me is we'll branch out and we have these fun conversations that have nothing to do with soccer, right? We talked about CEO, astronomer, everything going on with that. We've talked about what's relevant in the world today. Love Island, which I think is a terrible show. I hate reality TV. I hate the concept of, hey, let's take a sexy person and a sexy person and put them on an island here somewhere and see what they do. I hate fake drama, okay? I hate it. I despise it. But we have these fun conversations, and then people will come along and be like, well, why don't you talk about the things that are relevant to soccer in the United States and why we're in the position that we are? We do. We do. Now, if you watch it, if you consume it, if you embrace it, if you digest it, that's up to you. And that's not, we've covered it. And the hard thing is, and speaking from Ryan's perspective, and I think he's a great play-by-play kid, obviously a reputation when it comes to the social media side, trying to work his way up. Hopefully we can get him involved with more here on the National Soccer Network. But we've had those conversations. You heard him break it down too. There's just a lot of gray area in the soccer space when it comes to development, when it comes to identification, when it comes to any of those other things. There is a lot of gray area. Coming up tomorrow and Inside the Game, obviously we'll talk about that more. We'll get you guys ready for what's coming up. We can take a look at what's happening. The USL 2, obviously the continuation of their playoffs coming up, and a lot of good games as well. And we'll have them all for you here on the National Soccer Network. So here's a look. They will be on Sports Engine Play. Dothan United taking on Fort Lauderdale United FC. That one on Friday, July the 25th. Also on Friday, July the 25th, the Central Conference Finals. Flint City Bucks looking to go back and win their 5th championship in the USL 2, taking on Minneapolis City FC. Like I said, Dominic and Ayala up front for Flint City. Yeah, that's a dangerous combo, man. I mean, you can hold up for as long as you can. You better hope you get to them early, because their ability to move the ball and use the entire width of the field is impressive. You heard JT talk about that. Vermont Grain, who's had a great turnout to all their games, taking on Lions Bridge FC. That one also on Friday. All these games coming up on Friday. And then Ballard FC taking on Ventura County Fusion. That one on Friday as well. So there's a look at the remaining field. It's wild to think. It's wild to think that Flint City's that much closer. So let's look at our USL 2 playoffs at the moment. We can also show you guys what's going on over at the UPSL. We were talking about Chicago Nation, been covering their games. There's a lot to love about that team. And I will say Skitchenko up front has been an absolute menace. An absolute menace. So Chicago Nation just finished off the NY Shockers, so they move on to the quarterfinals in that one. So quarterfinals coming up. That's Saturday, July the 26th. Again, we'll have coverage of that right here on the network. Well, that'll wrap up this show here today, episode 122. Again, JT enjoying the beach, enjoying a little family day here today. We'll be back on the show tomorrow. We'll be talking about all the playoffs that are coming up, as well as the other stuff that's relevant in the soccer world. I know we got a break until international play, but still a lot of good things to cover as the soccer season continues to roll on. But that will wrap things up here on episode 122. Wanted to say a big thank you to, again, Ryan Glinsky for joining us on the show today. CMU graduate, sports broadcaster, deeply involved in the Detroit sports scene. And, our friends over at Woodward Sports for sharing them with us. So we appreciate you guys and everybody else who shows up to watch the show every day. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Also give us a follow on TikTok at National Soccer Network, as well as the rest of our social media platforms. And you heard Ryan talking about it a little bit earlier. Sometimes it's good to rage bait the people sometimes. Sometimes it's good to just put the clips out there. I'm not trying to rage bait any of you guys, but y'all seem to rage sometimes when we drop our takes here on Inside the Game, but we're going to continue to do that. We will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m., the man himself back with me, our final show for the week. But until we talk to you guys then, again, thanks so much, Random Aussie, Peter Mazuik, everybody who's joined us. We'll get right back to it tomorrow, 9 o'clock a.m. Like, follow, subscribe, and until we talk to you guys tomorrow.